This is Wraith from Wraith Rain. I'm an author of serialized gay romance fiction. Every week on this podcast, I'll be reading a chapter from one of my gay fantasy shifter serials called Dragon's Reign. I'll explain at the break how you can find out more about this story and others I write. So let's get to it. Chapter 44. As soft as plush, as hard as stone. The present. I didn't think shifters could get drunk. Caden tilted his head to the side as he regarded a swaying, smiling, flushed Valerius, who was looking back at him as if he were a plushie that Valerius would like to squeeze. We can't. We couldn't. I thought we couldn't. But Marban has a magical liquor that changes all of that. Valerius took 2 large steps towards Caden and grasped Caden's shoulders. The squeezing had begun. Oh, magic liquid? Caden was smiling uncertainly. He was liking being touched by Valerius, but was slightly alarmed by the Dragon King lifting him off of his feet by 6 inches with astounding ease. He'd known that Valerius was this strong, but he'd also taken some kind of drug. Or would it be considered a potion if it really is magical and not pharmaceutical? Caden wondered. Ambrosia! Marban put a finger against his nose and nodded conspiratorially. Oh, it's a drug. Man, Valerius is never going to live this down if anyone else sees him like this, Caden thought. It's bad enough that Marban is seeing him like this, though Valerius is rather an adorable drunk. It is truly the food, or rather drink, of the gods, Valerius enthused as he spun Caden around in a circle. He ended up setting Caden down as he stumbled. Caden laughed even as his own head spun. He quickly steadied the much larger, staggering Valerius, who thanked him and touched his nose. Boop. Did you just boop me, Valerius? Caden's eyebrows were up in his hairline. You have a very cute nose, Valerius said. Everything about you, Annihilator, is cute. Small and cuddly and, hey, Caden blushed as he glanced at Marban, lowered his voice, and said, sexy. I am sexy, not cute. Valerius went to boop his nose again. Caden successfully avoided it. Valerius giggled. Valerius giggled. Never did Caden think he would hear such a sound from Valerius's lips, but there it was. Shioni let you go out like this? Caden gestured to their very inebriated states. You didn't drive here, did you? Please tell me drunk driving is not to be added to your list of things you did today. Valerius and Marban exchanged a look that had them both bursting into laughter. No, we had a driver. Neither of us was even inclined to take the wheel. As to Shioni, she thought it wasn't wise for us to get drunk or leave the castle or come to see you or, well, anything we wanted to do, Marban admitted. She never lets me do anything fun. Valerius grumped and went over to the shelves where the dragon plushies were arranged by color. I think she just wants to make sure, what are you doing, Valerius? Caden asked as Valerius picked up the green dragon plushie. Valerius was nose to nose with the plushie. He thumped a finger against the plushie snout. You are a naughty dragon, Valerian. More than naughty. If you continue to anger me, this is what will happen to you. Valerius, that's for sale, and Valerius ripped off the green dragon plushie's wings. Oh boy. Caden put a hand against his forehead as the wings fluttered to the floor. Marban snickered and clapped. Well earned, well earned. I can just imagine Valerian's expression if you did that in real life, though there would be a lot of blood and roaring. That would make it less amusing. Valerius grabbed a hold of the green dragon plushie's head. Caden waved his hands in the air. No, Valerius, I can fix the wings, but not the The last was let out in a long sigh as Valerius wrenched off Valerian's head. And I will do that to you if you keep speaking of Caden being yours. He is not yours. He is mine. He is his own, and that is the way of things. Valerius told the headless, wingless green dragon plushie. He shook it, and stuffing went everywhere. Caden actually felt a swelling of warmth within him at those words. Valerius was jealous. He was possessive. He was going to stand between Caden and the titanic green dragon. And then Caden heard the door behind him from the shop open. "Caden," Wally began, "Rose said you were getting the plushies. People are getting all riled up out there without more merch to buy." "Oh, my God. What are you doing here? You've killed him," Wally said the last as he caught sight of the dismantled green dragon plushie. He raced over on his little legs and yanked the mangled plushie from Valerius's hands, or what was left of it. He shook the plushie under Valerius's nose, which required Wally to get up on his tiptoes, and yet more stuffing drifted to the floor. "You break, you buy, Valerius." Valerius's eyes narrowed and his hands went to his hips. He was wearing one of those revealing yet dangerous-looking armor pieces over his chest. If he hadn't been swaying and hiccuping, it would have been scary to be glared at him like that. Alarion had to be destroyed. It was necessary. This is a doll, not the Dragon King Alarion, though. I'm with you on the destruction, but not on the destruction of my merch, Wally cried and shook the plushie again. Considering how much money you owe Valerius due to your improper licensing of his image, Wally, I wouldn't complain about one destroyed plushie, Marban remarked, seemingly suspiciously sober at that moment. Caden looked at him suspiciously for sure. Had Marban been drunk at all? Who knew how this ambrosia worked? It might only affect dragons, though that seemed unlikely. How many dragons had Marban gotten drunk with after all to test it out? Wally's mouth opened and shut rather like a goldfish's. Caden winced. Marban was right about what he'd said. Valerius's image, both human and dragon, sold more than anything else in the store combined. If Valerius really wanted a cut of all that merch, it would put Wally out of business. Or if Valerius didn't want Wally to sell his Black Dragon merch anymore, it would severely cripple his business. Well, yes, but, here. Wally grabbed another green dragon plushie and thrust it into Valerius's hands. You can destroy this one, too. Go to town. Better yet, let me make a line of all the dragon shifters for you to take out. Caden had to hold a hand over his mouth to stop the laughter from pouring out as Wally put one of each dragon shifter plushie in front of Valerius as if they were an army about to attack him. Wally gestured to the line. Go to town. Show them who's boss. Valerius pursed his lips, and then he booted the red dragon. May flew across the room and impacted the wall. Caden took out his phone and started to film as Valerius continued to take out each plushie in turn. The yellow dragon was punted into a shelf, the purple dragon was sent spinning across the floor, the others were sent flying into every corner of the store. Only the blue dragon, Valerius's own black dragon, and Caden's white dragon remained untouched. Valerius picked up the white dragon and his own black dragon. For a moment, Caden thought that, like the little girl had demanded he do, Valerius would press their snouts together in a kiss. But instead, Valerius tucked one under each arm and then picked up the blue dragon as well. Esme will like this, Valerius said. That was when he realized that Caden was filming him. One of his eyebrows lifted. What are you doing, Caden? Recording this moment for posterity? Or something like that? Caden bit his lower lip. He so wanted to laugh. I think not. Give me that phone. Valerius tried to snatch it away, but Caden kept it out of reach and put the phone safely into his back pocket. Valerius was not as graceful when drunk, so he overcompensated and nearly face-planted when Caden sidestepped him. He only caught himself at the last moment. The Dragon King scowled at him when Caden remained safely out of his grasp. Don't worry, my king, Caden snickered. This footage will only be used if I have to blackmail you to do something important. Caden, Valerius cried. Caden snickered again. Or to torture you at a later date with just how cute you are when you're drunk. Caden, you are being very bad, Valerius rumbled. Yet a smile was tugging at his lips. I think it's also necessary to record this to remind you of how handsome you look when you smile and laugh, Caden told him. Valerius blinked. Was he tearing up? The Dragon King quickly looked away from him. You inspire that. Not ambrosia? Caden teased. But Valerius went on in that serious way. No, you. Just you. Suddenly, both Marban and Wally were looking anywhere but at him and Valerius. Caden's mouth felt very dry. So, other than to destroy an army of plushy dragons, what brings you here? Caden asked. I promised we would see each other today, Valerius mumbled. Oh, right. Yeah, it's awesome you're here. Caden scrubbed the back of his neck. It was more than awesome. It was the best present ever. You know, Marban, perhaps we ought to go out, go somewhere to discuss, something, shall we? Wally gestured towards the door to the shop. Marban inclined his head and hobbled after Wally out of the warehouse, leaving Caden and Valerius alone. I'm going to owe Wally for that, Caden thought. He can't stand Marban. Caden turned back to Valerius. The Dragon King had placed the 3 plushies he evidently intended to keep on a shelf at eye level. Let me get you a bag for those. It'll be easier for you to carry, Caden said, and leaned past Valerius to grab a bag from a box nearby. The side of his body brushed against Valerius's front accidentally. Valerius grasped Caden around the waist before he had a chance to get to the bag. Oh, God, sorry, Valerius was kissing him. Caden tensed in surprise, but then melted almost immediately as the Dragon King's tongue slid against his own. Liquid warmth filled Caden. His hands clung to Valerius's broad shoulders. It was so erotic to touch the spiked leather that covered the Dragon King's right shoulder and the soft, velvety skin that was exposed on his left. This is him in a nutshell, Caden thought. All spikes and hardness, but then underneath, silk, softness, warmth. Valerius pulled Caden against him, deepening the kiss as he did so. Caden felt all the hard lines and soft skin as his shirt rose up and his flesh pressed against the Dragon King's. Time suddenly had no meaning. The space they were in had no meaning. He was flying this time under a huge moon, and there was just him and Valerius. Caden lifted his legs up to wind them around Valerius's waist, while the Dragon King's hands slid under his buttocks to effortlessly hold him up. Valerius turned them so that Caden's back was against the cold wall of the warehouse, but the 2 of them together were so hot that though he let out a hiss of surprise, Caden rather welcomed the chill. But it startled them both out of the passionate bliss for a moment. Caden realized then how they looked. He knew he had a twin expression to Valerius's. 2 hard cocks strained in their pants for one another, lips puffy and well-used looking, cheeks stained crimson with desire, need, and simply heat. I hope you are enjoying Dragon's Reign so far. A lot of people have asked us how they can support the podcast. Of course, we would love you to become a member of Wraith Reign, where the Dragon's Reign serial is being written. But we also have some fun merchandise for the story, from posters to socks to journals. If you'd like to check out some Dragon's Reign merch, a link is in the description down below. We shouldn't do this here, Valerius said. His pupils, though, remained blown wide with desire. No, because, anyone could come in. Rose, or Wally, or God, Marban. Caden said the last with a shiver. Valerius's mouth flattened, but then he said, He has his moments, but him watching us together is not a fantasy of mine. Nor mine, not at all. Caden's head shook back and forth almost violently. But Valerius did not set him down. Instead, he squeezed Caden's ass. You deserve to be courted, Valerius breathed. I want to court you, and then bed you often and everywhere, even at this dank warehouse. Caden's eyes widened, and his heart beat like a drum in his chest. I want to court you too, or be courted, or both? Yeah, both. Valerius grinned. I would set cities on fire to lead you to my bed. That had Caden's eyes really widening. You don't have to go that far. I would. Ablaze. The whole world ablaze. So you could see your way to me. Caden's breathing hitched in his chest. Valerius was saying things he wouldn't if not for the ambrosia. Caden pressed 2 fingers against those plush lips that moved against his skin erotically. You've been drinking. You're drunk. I'm taking advantage of you. But Valerius shook his head. From the moment I first saw you, I knew. Some part of me knew that this was meant. Caden let out a chuckle. He knew how rose-colored glasses tinted things. Sex certainly did, and he corrected Valerius with, You wanted to kill me the first time we met. No, Razia was afraid. Valerius told him, eyes welling with emotions that were like quick silver fish that darted away before Caden could truly interpret them. Afraid of this connection. Afraid of us needing someone else because it would make us vulnerable. Caden swallowed. I make you vulnerable? Don't I? Yes. Caden looked at the scattered and destroyed plushies, and instead of it being funny and cute as it had been, it suddenly changed in his mind. He didn't see stuffed animals littering the ground. He saw dragons, crushed, burned, wings ripped off, the ground steaming with their blood. He saw Valerius in his dragon form, head tilted back and breathing a stream of fire into the air. You would do this for me, Caden whispered. It wasn't a question, but a statement. He knew it was true. It both exhilarated him and terrified him. It will not come to that, Valerius said. His gaze was steady. He did not seem drunk at all. Caden wondered if he was telling a lie to protect him from the truth. Caden cupped Valerius's face. He ran his thumbs over the firm planes. He enjoyed the rasp of the beard. I don't want you killing for me. I don't want you to destroy things or people or other dragons. Not for me. Valerius did not say he did not want that either. He did not repeat that it would not come to that. That terrified Caden more. Valerius, promise me. No. No? Caden blinked. Again, the Dragon King was not saying what he expected. I will do what I must. I promise nothing more than that. I know you want to preserve life. You and Iolaire are the joy that the spirits bring. Valerius smoothed a hand through Caden's hair. And I am the force to keep that joy safe. But Valerius, you are worth destroying everything to keep safe, Valerius told him, and a wrenched look crossed his face. You must trust me on this, Caden. I told you once that what earned you Iolaire was not the same thing that earned me Raziel or any of the other dragon shifters their spirits. You are unique. You are light, and you draw us like moths to a flame. Valerius leaned in and kissed Caden again. They kissed frantically, as if they needed the kisses to live. Caden had never felt so starved for the need to have contact with someone as he did with Valerius. At the same time, he felt the weight of this desire. Valerius was a man. He was not someone to be toyed with. If Caden pursued this, it couldn't be a fling or something temporary. Where have you been all my life? Caden thought. Where have you been? Here, waiting for you. Valerius's voice whispered back in his mind. An image of them in dragon form sailing across the night-darkened skies appeared in Caden's mind. There was only the whisper of the wind under their wings. It was like the touch of cool silk. They were gliding on the air currents. Their minds were entwined even as their nearest wingtips touched, just barely. Caden looked down at the landscape, and at first he saw only the rolling fields and thick forests that surrounded Reach. But then, images of dead dragons played behind Caden's closed eyelids. Broken draconid bodies littered the landscape just like children's toys, and they weren't the only things broken. There were buildings that were half destroyed and burning, others that were dissolving in pools of acid. Plasma rivers that drowned some of the fields, magma that glassed the hills. Caden opened his eyelids quickly and pulled back to look at Valerius. The terrible vision faded. Valerius was so beautiful, so very there, that it was hard to believe he was real in some ways, and this moment was more overwhelming than even becoming the ninth dragon shifter had been. He realized then that Eiler was awake and watching this moment. It was sitting up with its wings folded around its body and its tail slowly rising and falling. Raziel was awake too. The spirits were looking at each other. Whatever they said to one another, Caden couldn't hear it, but he knew it was important. It would explain if what he was seeing was real or just his fears. All those dragon bodies. Caden, Valerius whispered. The other dragon shifters. You've sent them away, right? No one is coming here, right? Caden said with half a smile. Valerius frowned, and Caden's heart started hammering. I wish to talk to you about that, but not. You sent them away, right? Caden searched Valerius's face. He was rock hard in his pants. His body ached for completion. He wanted to simply rub against Valerius' muscled form and find that completion with him, to have them come together. He would figure out the clothes situation later. He just wanted this now, but he had to know the answer to that question. In order for them to truly leave, they have to meet the white dragon. What? I'm not meeting them! Caden gripped Valerius's shoulders. Valerius nodded, agreeing with him, but then he said, It will just be like with the media. You will meet them in your dragon form, listen to their offers. Valerius gritted his teeth. And then I tell them to leave and they go? Caden finished for him, as much a question as a statement. Yes. Valerius pressed his hard cock against Caden's as he rocked forward to catch hold of Caden's head. Yes, and then they leave. What if they don't go? Will you make them go? Caden searched Valerius's face. Yes, I will make them go, Caden. No hesitation, no fear, just a simple fact. Caden swallowed and tipped his head toward the plushies. It's not going to be that easy, though, right? Or that violent. I mean, Caden licked his lips. He felt like he was on the edge of a cliff about to sail off, and yet he was clinging to the earth. We have wings, Eiler said. We will fly. Trust. I trust you, Caden finally said to Valerius. I trust you to do what's right. You are afraid, I know. Valerius cupped Caden's cheek. I will keep you safe. At what cost, though, Valerius? Caden thought. At any cost, Caden. Valerius answered. You are worth that. Caden tucked his face in the shelter beneath Valerius's chin. The Dragon King stroked his hair and hummed. When are the other dragon shifters coming? Caden asked. Valerius let out a soft sigh. Esme and Delarian will be here in a few hours. Caden tensed in his arms. That's why you got drunk, isn't it? Valerius let out a laugh. Yes. Yes, it is. That is exactly why I got drunk. It also means I may not be able to fly with you tonight. I'll be there. Caden interrupted. He pulled back so that they were eye to eye. At high reach. I'll meet them tonight with you. We'll fly. I'm not giving up my life because they are here. Besides, the faster I meet them and tell them to beat it, the better, right? Valerius's eyebrows lifted. It was clear that he hadn't expected Caden to want to meet the other dragon shifters at all, let alone so soon. It would be, but are you certain? Valerius's brows were drawn together. I am more than sure. I don't want to do it, but I have to do it. I've got to make clear to them that I don't want to be their mate. I think I want to be yours, Caden added silently. And then he said out loud, It's better I let them down quickly. It'll be like a Band-Aid. Just pull it off and the pain is over. Valerius chuckled. It will be a great pain if they get to know you any little bit. Well, you're biased. I invaded your territory after all. Caden grinned, then with a sigh, he unwound his legs from Valerius's waist. What are you doing? We have had the difficult discussion. Now we can indulge. Valerius flushed a little. Do you not want to indulge? Oh, I want to indulge. That's what I'm going to do now. Caden patted his shoulders. but I don't want to indulge in this musty warehouse. I'm telling Wally I need the rest of the day off. I will only have you to myself for a few more hours, and I want to take advantage of those." He grinned mischievously. "I'll ask Marban to sub for me. I'm sure he can sell plenty of plushies. He's good at convincing people to buy things they don't need." Valerius shook his head in amusement. He put a hand to his temples and grimaced. "The ambrosia is wearing off. I remember this feeling, a hangover. I do not miss this." Caden reached up and rubbed Valerius' temples. "Imagine me doing this with your head pillowed in my lap and the sunlight falling down upon us." Valerius grunted in approval. Yes, I can imagine it." Caden drew his hands down and headed to the door. "You won't have to imagine it." Valerius' gaze tracked him as he grasped the door handle. "We're going to do that in just a few minutes." I hope you enjoyed this week's chapter. Just a reminder that if you join Wraith Rain as a member, the membership is 15 to 20 episodes ahead of the free podcast. If you'd like to join and listen to all those extra podcasts, not to mention getting access to the other stories and manga on Wraith Rain, a link is down below.